Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Vretta webinar. Today, we will be going through logging into the online assessment platform, going through the basics of understanding where to find your groupings, your assessment sessions, making sure you can manage your students and see all the correct information. At this point, you should have all received access to the platform, so you should be able to log in. And I think the goal for the next couple weeks before the administration period begins is to just ensure that all the information that you see as you log in is accurate. And if there's any issues, please send an email to the correct email that you will find at the technical message button. I'll just let as many people join as possible. We do have members of the ECD staff here, as well as our Vretta staff, which is me, Kristen, and then we've got Jacob here, who will be taking us through the demo. So at this point, I think I'll hand it off to Jacob, and if at any point there's any questions, please feel free to jump in. Jacob?
Thanks, Kristen. Hello, everybody. We're just going to get started here in just a moment. Just a couple of housekeeping pieces before I share my screen. So I'm going to be doing a demo of the system, as Kristen mentioned. I'm going to be focusing on some of the key account access on the system. So logging in as both school administrator as well as a teacher and invigilator on how to administer a test on the platform. A couple of key things. I know Kristen mentioned in terms of questions. Feel free to post them in the chat while I'm going through the demo. I'll try to take the next 30 to 40 minutes to go through the entire walkthrough, and then we'll have a little time maybe to take up some of those questions in the chat, or you guys can unmute and we can chat about those questions. A couple other things, I am using a couple sample schools here, so you'll see some sample information, some data that I'm using. Obviously, all of that stuff is sample anonymized data. Okay, without further ado, I will get started in my screen. Okay, just want to make sure everyone can see my screen there. Okay, a couple nods, it's good.
Yep.
Excellent. All right, we'll get started. All right, so we're going to look at three main paths here on using the system, all to facilitate students logging in and taking the assessment. We're going to start as a school administrator or principal of a school. Then we're going to look at a teacher or invigilator, how they monitor assessments. And we're also going to take a look at what it looks like when a student logs into the system to actually take the test. So first things first, in terms of logging in as a school administrator. So we have the website here, nsa.vretta.com. Going to that website will take you to a login page. So as a school administrator or teacher, you can click on the staff member button. And here you'll be able to log in either using the SSO or direct login. Now, for the SSO here, so for the Microsoft or the GNSPES, sorry, some people coming in. You can refer to the user guides that have been shared in terms of which login method should be used. But for any kind of direct login, you can log in with Microsoft or the SSO here. For public schools, you'll be able to log in through, again, the SSO through Microsoft or GNSPES. All right, so it's just a reminder that if you have SSO, make sure to use these SSO logins. But once you do log into the system, you'll have access to your school. We're going to go over some of the main parts of the site, as well as all of these steps that you need to complete as a school administrator or principal in order to be technically ready to administer the assessment. So when I get access to my school, I'll see that there's a few elements to my page here, to my dashboard. So first, I have my first thing on the dashboard page here. I can see at the top of the screen, I have my filter. So that allows me to filter to the different assessment grades that I have. So either grade 6 or grade 8. And I'll see how that impacts the different sections of the site here in just a moment. I also have access to the technical support and the ability to change the site to French in the top right corner of the screen. I also have access, a quick link here to take me to the help pages where all the guides are located. All right, the main part of the dashboard here, this center icon here, allows me to navigate to different parts of the site that I'll need to go through as the principal or school administrator in order to make sure that my school is ready to administer the assessment. The first thing I might want to do as a school administrator is manage my administrator access. So by clicking the Manage Administrator Access, I'll see a link of all these school administrators that have access to my school. Again, you see a long list of folks on my page here. I'm using a sample school with a lot of different users that have access. But as the school administrator, when you're first logging on, you'll probably just see yourself in this list. Now, for whatever reason, if you need to add someone else to this list, let's say another administrator or a vice principal to the system, you can create a new account by using the Create New Account button. You enter their name, first name, last name, and email, and then they'll be able to log in to this school as well and do all the same actions that you'd be able to do. For whatever reason, if I want to remove someone from that role, I can always select their name, and then I can revoke their account access. At any time, at any part of the site I'm in, I can always click on the school administrator button here, and I can navigate back to my dashboard. Once I've made sure that I have the right access and any person that's supporting me, school administrator or vice principal, also has access, the next thing I'm going to want to do is go through all these steps here to make sure that my school is technically ready to administer the assessment. So the first step there would be going to the technical readiness page. The technical readiness page, and I'll just uncheck these quickly. The technical readiness page, it will be a checklist. These are different steps that need to be completed in order to ensure that your school is technically ready to administer the assessment. Some of these are more straightforward than others, and others are more technical. For example, the few first steps here about ensuring that the Vretta email has been added to any email safe sender list at the school, or reviewing all the class information, which we'll look at in just a moment. And then there's more technical steps. Specifically at the bottom here, it's the checklists are to confirm that the right lockdown environments have been set up for the students at your school to take the assessment. So just as a reminder, the way that the site is set up, and we'll go into this in a little more detail, is that students are not able to just navigate directly to a website and take the test. Students need to access the site using one of our lockdown browsers. So there's the two options that you're seeing here. One is called SEB, Safe Exam Browser. The other one's called Assessment Lock. SEB, or Safe Exam Browser, is used for Windows, Macs, and iPads, whereas Assessment Lock is used for Chromebooks. In the guides, we have information about how to set this up, the technical ways that this can be set up on devices individually, or that can be pushed out at a school or board or district level. But all that information is also included here, including the where to download the information needed. But once I've confirmed that all these technical steps have been done, so I've ensured that all my devices are technically ready, and I've gone through all these steps, I can make sure that these are all checked off. And I need to make sure these are checked off, or else I won't be able to administer the assessment. Once I've made sure that I'm technically ready to administer the assessment, the next thing I'm going to want to do is I want to make sure that all the teachers and exam supervisors or invigilators in the system have access. So I will navigate to the teacher and invigilator page. So on this page here, I'll be able to see a list of all the teachers or invigilators that have been added to my school. Again, this information, or the bulk of this information, will be preloaded into the system. So when you log into the site, you should already see a list of teachers that are assigned to your school. I'll be able to see their name and email in the column here. I'll be able to see the groupings that are assigned to them, the classes. We'll go ahead and get into this in a little more detail in a moment. I'll also be able to confirm when an invitation was sent to them and if they have access to the system. For whatever reason, if I need to add teacher to my school to manage a session or invigilate a session, I can click the Create New Account button. This will open a pop-up and let me add some information. So I'll add some a name, first name, last name, an email. I can decide whether they're a teacher or an invigilator. Let's say an invigilator in this case. I can create a new class for them in the new grouping page, or I can assign them to an individual grouping or class that's already in the system. We'll get into what these groupings and class means in a moment, but I don't have to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this person. So an email already exists there. And when I add them, I'll be able to see that they've been added to the system. And if for whatever reason, when they get added to the system, they'll be able to log in and access their account. At any time, too, I can go in, select a teacher's name, and edit their access if I need to, or revoke the access when I need to. But again, teacher accounts should already be preloaded into the system. There. Once I confirm that all the teachers have access to the system, I want to confirm then that all of the classes that are assigned to those teachers have access. I see there's a hand up. Is there something that we want to go over now?
Sorry, Jacob, I hate to interrupt you, but I have a teacher who's listed who's on maternity leave, and I don't have access to create a new account for the teacher who's replacing her. Like,
Okay.
it's grayed out for me.
This button that says create new account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We can take a look at that. Maybe it depends on the class that you're assigned to there. If you want to reach out to the technical support team, we can take a look at that case.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And just before we get into more questions there, if you want to put your questions in the chat, I'll be happy to take them up. I want to make sure that we can get through some of the key elements on the site before we dig into those. Okay. So once I've confirmed that all my teachers have access to the system, I can then review the classes or the groupings that are available in my school. So if I go to the groupings page, this will be a list of all of the classes that are in my school. Now, we use the term grouping, and a grouping is any cohort of students that are taking the assessment together. So commonly a grouping is a class in our system, but it doesn't have to be a class. Groupings can be created if particular students need to take an assessment together because let's say they all were absent on a day of the test and you want to create a makeup grouping, you can. That being said, all of the class information along with the teacher and student information will be uploaded to your school directly. So you should be able to see all the classes that you're expecting and the associated teachers and students that we'll see in a moment. But again, for whatever reason, if you need to create a new grouping of students, a new class, you can click the new grouping button. Here, you can select the course that this is assigned to. You can give the grouping a name. You can assign a teacher that exists right away or assign a new teacher, and then click OK to create that grouping. So once I've confirmed my technical readiness, made sure all my teachers are in the school, and I've made sure all my groupings or classes are looking correct, the next thing I can do is I can review my student information. Clicking on the student tab, I will see all the students that are assigned to my school. Again, I can through all these pages, I can filter between the different grades to see which are which, and I can see a list of all those students. Again, here you see a lot of sample data that we're using for our student names, but this would be where you would see the student's first name, their last name, where I can see their date of birth, the groupings that they're associated to, and all that information. A couple key things on this page for the student information. First, like everywhere else on the site, all your student information should already be pre-uploaded into the system. So when you log in, you should be able to see all that student data that you would expect to see associated to the correct teacher and associated to the right class. If I wanted to dig in and see a little bit more of the information for each student, I can click on their student number here, and this will open a pop-up. Now, a couple things that are very important to remember with the student information. The course area here, you'll see there's different checkboxes for the different courses. So I have reading and writing, I have lecture and écriture, so the French version, math, and the math and French as well. Students will only have access to the assessments that are they are configured for, meaning that the students have if a student, for example, didn't have reading and writing checked off, that student wouldn't be able to access that assessment. So if for whatever reason you wanted to confirm and check into which courses the students are assigned to, you could review that here. And if I go back, I can also see that that's reflected right here as well. So I can see which courses this student is eligible to complete. In a similar vein, if I go back into one of these students options, I can go to the adaptations here, or accommodations. Here I can see all the adaptations that are assigned to the student for their assessment. And again, similar to before, it is course specific. So for example, if I scroll down a bit, you'll see that I have this student we confirmed is assigned to take all 4 courses in this scenario, French and English for reading and writing and math. And I can see that for each of these categories, I have a list of the different accommodation statuses. So for example, I have a participation status, which I can edit here. And I have the adaptation status. The adaptation status is important for a lot of reasons because it will impact the student's experience while they're taking the assessment. And we'll see that in just a moment here. But a couple of examples here. If you look at the built-in adaptations and supports, I have an option here to select the read aloud built-in listen tool. So there is a listen tool that's built into the system, and we're going to take a look at it in a moment when I open up an assessment. But if this student doesn't have this selected as an adaptation, they won't have access to this tool. So it's important that these are reviewed, and we need to make sure that they're updated accordingly for each student. And again, I can see on this page at a high level view what accommodations or participations or specifically what adaptations are enabled for which students. So I can see here, again, it's specific to each grade. I can see that information in there. So one of the important things to do as I'm logging in as a school administrator, as I'm reviewing all my students, I want to make sure that they're assigned to the right courses, that they're in the right classes, and that if they require any special participation flags or any adaptations, I'm going in and ensuring that they're accurate. Okay, so once I've done a couple of these steps and I've ensured that my technical readiness is to date, my teachers and invigilators have access to the system, all my classes are the way they should be, and I've gone into the student page to review that all my students are set up, the next thing I might do, or the next thing I have access to, is the assessment session button. So again, I have a lot of data in here. You'll probably have a bit less when you when the assessments start. But the assessment sessions tab is used as for you, the invigilator, as a way to manage and check in on any assessment sessions that are pending, in progress, or that have been submitted. So it gives you a bird's eye view of everything that's going on assessment-wise at your school. So I can see here I have the sessions, the status of the sessions, whether they're pending, meaning that they've been scheduled to start at a certain time or start yet, or whether they're in progress. And I can review the information and take a look there. Again, I have a few dozen lined up here, but this is just our sample school, and you'll probably see a bit far fewer. Again, I can also click on the submitted session tab. That will allow me to see any of the sessions that have completed. I can click that button to kind of jump between the two. Importantly, and we're going to go over this in just a moment, I don't have the ability here to create a session for my teachers. Teachers will go in and create and schedule their sessions themselves. We'll see that in just a moment when we switch over into the teacher view. One other important feature that you'll have access to as a school administrator is that at any time, you'll be able to take a look at any of these sessions that are in progress. And let's say for whatever reason, the teacher that is running this session, so that's me right now, but any teacher that's running a session, if they are absent or they have to leave halfway through an assessment for whatever reason, as the school administrator, you can click this invigilate button, and that will allow you to jump in to the teacher's account and manage that session on their behalf. We'll take a look at what that looks like on how to run a session, but this is just a handy tool in case for whatever reason you needed to jump in and check out what's going on in any individual session. So again, just a quick recap as a school administrator. There isn't too much going on here, but really what I'm doing is I'm making sure that my school, my teachers, and my students are all set up to start and schedule their sessions appropriately. So that includes going through the technical readiness checklist and making sure that all the devices are technically ready to administer. That includes ensuring all the teachers and invigilators have access to the system. It includes making sure that my groupings and the classes are all linked up and what I'm expecting. And it includes going into the student page and reviewing that all the students I expect to see are in my school. So once I've done this, let's say I log in. I know you guys have access to this starting to go out this week. So all these steps are things I might do now. I might do them well ahead of the assessment sessions actually starting. So let's fast forward a little bit and pretend it is the day of or just before the start of the day of the test. What does it look like for teachers to actually start an assessment and administer an assessment? That's what we're going to look at next. So I have a special account here that lets me jump between school administrator and teacher pretty easily. But in terms of the login process for teachers, again, very similar to the school administrators. They'll have access to their to log in with SSO if they have that, or log in directly if they're not linked up with SSO. But once I do log in as a teacher, I'll be brought to this page. This is my teacher page. Here, I'm going to be able to see all of the classes or the groupings that have been assigned to me as a teacher, and I see it broken up by the different grades. So, for example, I can see here that for grade 8, I have a few classes that are assigned to me to administer the assessment. Now, I have 6 here for the purposes of the webinar, but a teacher might have less or more than this depending on what they're going to be invigilating. So let's say I'm starting a session. I can find that session that I'm starting, and I can click Select Class. Actually, I'm going to do this one. So I can click Select Class, and this will bring me to my class page for that individual class. So let's say it's a couple hours before or the day before even the students are going to log on and take an assessment. There's a couple things that I can do at this stage. I can go to the Manage Students button here, and I can see a list of all the students that are in my class. I can review their information. I can see their student numbers, and it's very similar to the school administrator. I can click on that student and see some of their information. Specifically, I can see all their critical information I need to log in, which is their date of birth and their student number. I can also see their adaptations. So I might go in early to review this information to make sure it's what I expect. Also, as a teacher, if I know that, okay, this student, Tim, actually for the reading and writing in grade 8, they do need the listen tool. So I can click on the edit button. I can go to the adaptations and say, yeah, this student does need the listen tool, and I can click that. Now, when that student logs in, they'll have access to this tool or the multilingual selector. And I just got to make sure I click OK to save that. So now when I go back in, I'll see that this is selected. And then when Tim logs in, they'll be able to see that tool or whatever tool has been assigned to them. This is an important step for teachers to make sure they're clear on ahead of starting the assessment, what students are in their class, and everything is as is expected to see for the list of students and their accommodations. At any time, I can jump back to my class page after I reviewed that, and I've made sure that I'm ready to start the test. So the next step here is during my let's say now it's the morning of the assessment, or again, it could be the day before, but I'm ready to schedule an assessment session. To do that, I can click Start or Schedule Assessment Session under Active Assessments here. It'll give me the option to select what type of assessment I'm supervising. So I'll select the one that's available. I will select which assessment I want this session to be for. So let's say I'm doing a reading and writing grade 8. Now I can see here, as you can see, it's saying scheduled May 1st at 11 a.m. So again, I'm here in Eastern time. That's why it's showing that way. But the date that is being shown here, this is the date that this assessment will become available. It doesn't mean that I have to start this test exactly at 11 a.m. or at the time that it starts in the time zone. But it does mean that I'll be able to unlock it after that time for the students. I can also give a name to the session. I can call it, I'll just say demo for now, but I can make it whatever I'd like, and I can click OK. Now that I've scheduled this assessment ahead of time, I know that it's ready here, and I can see that I have this demo reading and writing a grade 8 assessment that's scheduled to be opened on May 1st. So this is an example of something that can be done, again, can be done tomorrow by the teachers, or it can be done the day before if they want to start the assessment, or it could be done on the day of if they want to start the assessment after that date is passed. But I can see that it's now been scheduled. So again, let's fast forward and we're going to pretend it's May 1st. I have a session here already set up where I've activated a session. So on this page here, you'll see what it looks like when it changes from being in a pending status to now it's active, which means we've passed the threshold of that date that I saw for my scheduled session, and now this session is active. So now that it's active, I can click on this session, and it'll take me to my invigilation page. This is the most important page for teachers or invigilators of the assessment, because this is where they're going to monitor and manage the students as they're completing the assessment. So a couple of general points about this page. Again, I can see all my students here lined up, ready to take the test. Again, just like before, I can jump in. I can see what they have access to. So for instance, I'm going to log in as a student. So I want to make sure that I want to show you guys what this is reading and writing 8. Yes. So I want to show you guys what the read aloud tool looks like. So I'm going to enable it for the student. I can see that information. I can quickly see the student number. I can see some buttons that allow me to manage the session. We're going to go into what these mean in just a moment. But the most important part of this page is the section here on the right, where I see part 1 and part 2 of the assessment. And I see these little gray blocks that are all saying not started. This is the progress bar for the students as they're taking the assessment. So it tells me what stage that student is at in whatever part of the assessment. So for example, all my students right now are locked and they have not started the assessment. And I'll see as I progress through administering how that changes. And so the other thing to remember about these assessments is, again, there are 2 parts here. Each assessment has a part 1 and a part 2. The way that these assessments have set up is that they are not, they can be done in any order, meaning that if a student starts part 2, they can complete part 2, be unlocked and start for part 2, and then go back to part 1 and start part 1 if they'd like. But again, there's part 1, part 2. It doesn't necessarily have to be taken in that order. A couple other important buttons that I see here are options. I have my time remaining. I can see that for this entire exam, I have 60 minutes set up. I can adjust the time remaining for individual parts. So again, just to be clear, this says A and B, but what it's referring to is part 1 and part 2 from the system, that I can schedule the time remaining for both those sessions. And I can adjust this time if I need to. I can also mark students as absent if they're not present on the day. Now, I have a few buttons here, but the important one that we'll get into, not more important, but the one that I would review maybe, let's say, an hour before my students are coming to sit into the classroom, is the print class with student numbers. So to log into the system, we're going to see this in just a moment here. Students need 3 pieces of information. They need the access code, they need the student number, and they need their date of birth. So if I were to just find this information on the screen, I have the access code here in the top right corner. This is the same code for all these students taking the same class together. For the student number, I can see that by showing student number here, or by clicking on the student, I can see their student number, and I can also see their date of birth right here as well. Now, if my students don't have this information handy, let's say they don't have access to their student number, or for whatever reason, we want to provide that information to them ahead of time, of course, that can be passed out individually, or we do have the option of clicking that print login card information, and that will show me, that will create these little login cards that will let me create a PDF that I can print, and I can cut out these cards and provide them to the students in order to allow them to log in with these login cards ahead of time. So this is something that I can do before the session starts. All right, now let's say that let's say it's the test is about to start and the students are sitting down and they're about to start their test. Let's see what it looks like for a student to log in and how I allow my students to do that as a teacher. So the first most important part here is that a student will be able to log in with those 3 pieces of information that you provide them. But they will not be able to start any part of a test if they're locked. So we need to make sure that the students are unlocked for them to start. So I'm going to start by unlocking part 1 for all these students. And as I've unlocked, the progress is now updated. All these students are now ready to start the assessment. So let's grab the information for my demo student 1 and log in as them and see what they experience. Just give me a second as I pull up my other screen with the student login. Okay, bear with me here. Okay. So again, hopefully everyone can see my screen. But another reminder about student logging in. If I try to just navigate to this login link directly without having the proper lockdown extension or the lockdown browser set up, I will not be able to log in or start the test. The system is going to be checking to make sure I have that set up. The site that I have right now has that disabled, but for the students writing the actual assessment, they need to use that environment. Okay, let's log in as this at the student that I have set up here. First things first, I'm going to grab the access code from my other page. Then I'm going to grab the student's student number, and then I'm going to put in their date of birth. Once I have all that information, I can click sign in. Sorry, I put in the wrong date of birth. And then I can sign in. I'm just going to hide this. So again, I've signed in to the site. And what I'll do is I'll quickly flash my other screen here, my teacher screen. If you can see here, now this student is online, but they're still marked as ready to start. So they haven't started yet. So for a student to start the test, they have to click on this assessment button. So by clicking on this, it'll allow them to start the assessment. So I'll go ahead and click on it. So this brings the students to their the assessment page where they're taking a test. And we'll spend the next couple of minutes here just explaining what this test page looks like, the different elements there, and how students navigate. So the test page has three main sections. It has the navigation bar on the left. It has the main content in the center. That's where the questions, where the reading passages, all that is located. And then it has the toolbar on the far right. And we'll go over all that in a moment. Now, for this assessment here, we can see that there is some information on the welcome page in terms of the part one for reading for this assessment. And it will allow me to continue to the next parts of the assessment. I can do that by clicking here, clicking on the different parts, or using the next and back navigation on the bottom right corner of the screen. So I'll go to continue to tools and navigation. Now this test has a little bit of an explanation of what these tools are in the test. I'm not going to go through all the points here. I'll explain them as we're going through it. But the students have an opportunity to review the tools that are available to them. It explains to them, how the question answering works and the flags. Again, I'm going to show you all of this. It gives a little bit of explanation about the different tools that they have access to, which will, again, I'll go through each one. Again, a little bit more of an explanation of what these tools are that they have available to them. All right, so I'm going to continue into the actual assessment by clicking continue to the assessment. Okay, so this is an example of the reading assessment. So here I can see instructions for actually reading, doing the reading assessment. I can also see that I have different questions as well as reading passages. So if I click on a reading passage, it'll take me to the reading passage. So here as a student, I can review, I can read through this reading passage. After I've reviewed it, I can continue into the questions. Now, a couple of things. I can see that even though I went to question one here, my reading passage has stayed open on the screen. So I can review it as I'm answering my questions. For whatever reason, if I don't want to see that here, I can go ahead and click on the link up top, which is a link to the reading passage. I can open and close that at any time in case I don't want to see it while I'm answering my question, or if I want to reference it as I go back. As I complete the assessment, so let's say I'll answer some of these questions, it will start showing as filled out. As I continue through the assessment, as I continue referencing the reading passage, for whatever reason, let's say I'm not too sure about a specific question, I can always flag that question. This puts a little flag by the question to remind me maybe to come back to this question or that it was difficult and I might want to review it. But again, I can continue through the assessment completing the different questions. If I get to this other reading passage here, it's a good opportunity to show some of the tools that the students have access to. So first, we can start with a not universal tool, the listen tool. So I have the listen tool enabled here for this student. If I didn't go in and click that annotation for this student, they wouldn't have this button on their screen. But because they do, they can click on this button and I can see a audio of this reading passage will appear. And I can listen to this as I complete the assessment, or rather as I'm going through this reading passage. I also have other tools that are available, some more common universal tools that I didn't have to toggle on or off. So this includes my zooming in and out, for example, to the text. I have a line reader tool that lets me go line by line in case I need that to focus. I have a few drawing tools. I have my highlighter tool, for example, which lets me highlight different portions of the text. I can use the eraser tool to get rid of any of that. I have the background color tool. It lets me select different colors for my background if for whatever reason I need that as a support visually. I also have access to a notes tool, which lets me keep notes in this little toolbox so that I can reference them. And lastly, I also have access to, for this assessment, I have access to a dictionary that I can use to consult while I'm taking the assessment. As I complete the assessment, again, I'll see more questions. I'll be able to navigate through these multiple choices. So I'll just start completing these. And then once I'm done with this test, I've done all the questions that I'm going to do, I can click review and submit. Now, as I've done this, as I've tried to complete this part of the assessment, the site is telling me that I have one question that I haven't completed yet. That's right, I flagged a question here. So I'm going to go back to my questions and look at my flagged question and give it a shot. But I'm going to remove the flag. Now I can be sure that all my questions have answered, and I can click review and submit. And it's going to confirm I'm about to submit. If you're sure, go ahead and click next or click back to go back and review your work. No, but I'm sure, so I'm going to go and submit. Again, it's going to give me one more time to confirm, do I actually want to submit my assessment? Just in case I don't want to submit it by accident, but I do, so I click submit my assessment. And then it brings me back to this page. And now as a student, I've completed that portion of the assessment. So if we go back to my teacher page here for a moment, I can see that student, I can see a few things for that student now. A, they're logged in, as I showed before. I also see they've spent 6 minutes in the system. I can see that here. And I can also always see the amount of time spent in the progress bar. And I can also see that they've submitted this portion of the assessment. So now maybe that this student's completed part 1 very quickly, I might unlock part 2 for them. And this will allow them to start the second part of the assessment. Again, I'm not going to go through the assessment for each part necessarily for all students, but it does give an idea of how when you unlock, you can then watch the students as they go through the different sections and eventually submit the assessment. Now, I have a few other buttons on the screen here that we'll go over. I can pause the session for the students. That means I can, it's similar to locking the assessment for all the students. It just allows me to do it quickly for everyone and stops the progress of the assessment. And I can unpause here at any time as well. I have the option to show an unsubmit button. So, although as you saw, the system gives a lot of warnings not to have students submit the test, students will submit the text by accident. It does happen. And if that does happen, you can always click show session unsubmit button. And a little button will pop up beside the session. And you can select this to go through an unsubmission process to allow the students to get back into the test if they submitted by accident. Lastly, I do have a button here that says report an issue. So the report an issue button is used you can see, to report any issues that were happening during the assessment. If I click OK here, it'll take me to a form that will allow me to, express any issues that I had with the assessment. I can do this at the end of my assessment, or if it's something urgent that's happening right away, I can do it during the assessment. There are different categories that you can select. Technical support, student response issue, or academic anomaly or academic dishonesty. So we should be using these categories to denote the different types of issues that could happen. So if there is a technical problem, that could mean, for whatever reason, technically a student is being prevented from starting or continuing with their assessment. That might be something to add there, or anything that's happening on the site itself. Whereas a student response issue would more likely be something, for example, a student has a question about one of the reading paragraphs, or a concern about one of the answers that are available on the test. Whereas an administration anomaly or academic dishonesty could range from anything from something external that interrupted the flow of the assessment, or a student perhaps cheating on the test or whatever, academic dishonesty falls under that, or other. Then you can add a description of the issue that was seen, and if it was urgent, or if there's an issue that's preventing you from moving forward, if you add a phone number for a quick callback and an email here, someone will get back to you on the technical team to resolve your problem. And this can be done, so this can be associated to the entire class. So if there was an anomaly that affected the entire class, or if you're having a specific issue with, let's say, the test of one student, I can report it against the one student and click the report button. Okay, so now that I've reviewed most of the key aspects of administering as a teacher, let's say I've made sure all my students have completed the assessment. They've all gone to submit it. They've all completed everything. The last thing I'm going to do before I finish for the day, let's say they finish both parts, we'll click Submit Assessment Session. When I'm ready, I can type in yes, click OK, and this will submit my session and and then fully submit the assessment that I was running. Once I do this, I will be able to start a new assessment session for another topic or subject that's running an assessment. But importantly, I can't have multiple active assessments running at once. So I need to ensure that I have one that's completing and then the other for each class. Okay, I'm not going to actually submit this just yet because I do want to open it up to some questions, and maybe if there's something anyone wants to see, I could jump into one of those as well. I see a lot of activity in the chat, and I know that I see a lot of the answers also going back and forth there as well. So I'm just taking a quick look here at the chat. I see, Sarah, you've been answering quite a few there. Sarah, are there any technical questions you'd like me to take up specifically, by any chance? I'm looking at some here. That was answered.
Jacob, actually, the last question was, do you have time to show the translator?
Sure, yeah, I can go in and show that tool. So I'm going to go ahead, since demo student one already completed, I'll go into Ron and I will show the translator. Is there a language I should select specifically? People want to see?
Persian.
Arabic.
Arabic? Go. So I'll click save here. Make sure I have that locked in. All right. So just bear with me as I log in as this other student. One sec. Gotta log out of the other page. Screen again. Student page. I'm logging in as this other student. Just gotta unlock them. Yes. Okay, they all have the same birth date to sit up here. Yep. First 10. All right, so I'm going in, same assessment, different student. Let's go to the, that's because I was sharing the screen. Give me a second. So this happens because I'm using I'm not using a lockdown. Okay, so I'm going to go, let me just move to a reading passage maybe. This one maybe. Okay, and the this is the translation tool here. Everyone see this on my screen? So as you can see, I have my translator. Let's say I do, put in my, grab the first sentence here, put it into my text. Oh, I can only do 25 characters. Time. Okay.
Select the language, Jacob.
Yeah, I got to, so I selected Arabic, so that's my only option there. Click translate, and it will translate to Arabic. Fortunately, I'm not sure if that's correct, to be honest, but I'm assuming it is.
That's correct.
Okay, and I believe I can, I can't change the language here as a student, but the teacher can change the language.
And it's only to read the language, is that correct? Not to hear?
To hear, no, I don't believe this. No, I don't believe it's reading the text out loud.
Okay.
I'll just jump out of this thing here. Oh, and again, here's an example of, I didn't show this before, but see what it looks like when the student's on a particular part of the assessment. So stage 3, the reading passage. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. See, Sarah, you're very on top of these questions, it looks like. Maybe I'll just open it up if anyone wanted to unmute, or there are questions that we can take up, that, or maybe questions you posted in the chat but didn't get an answer. Feel free to let me know.
In case we missed anybody.
I have a question about some timing about this assessment. Is this the forum to ask it?
There's student assessment staff on the call, so yeah.
Okay, so like we received an email and we have like 7 classes and they gave us like a schedule of when we're supposed to give the assessment for each class. So like 2 classes are going to write on these days, 2 classes are going to write on these days, etc. So for the cohort that writes like almost 9 days after the first cohort, I'm assuming it's the same assessment. So like, I don't know if kids care and they're talking about like the story or whatever, like what's the contingency on that part of it? Like we just let them talk about it or shut it down, or are they different questions?
They are not different questions. Carolyn, that was an HRCE scheduling issue. So probably the best person to talk about that with would be the regional assessment coordinator for HRC.
Okay, and who is that person?
Plug it out because it's a junior high. This is where I always get confused. Alicia Potvin.
Okay, got it. So I can ask her those questions about that timing stuff?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
No problem.
So another question about new students who arrive during the assessment, or like, you know, the day of the assessment, this has happened, or, you know, literally the day before the assessment. The administrator has to go in and add those students. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for flagging that. I didn't show this, but you will be able to, if needed. Sorry, I just quickly jumped back to my school administrator account on the student page. I can click create new account here, and I can create new students directly in the system as a school administrator. Again, there's these required fields here. It's the course now that's selected there is not required, but again, as a reminder, very important to select which courses they're assigned to, because that's what gets them access to those individual assessments. But yes, you can add students directly. A question about makeup sessions. Again, the important thing, I guess, to flag about concurrency of sessions running in general is that, for example, as a teacher, I can have like different classes that are running. So, for instance, I have this yeah, This one we were just in is active right now. And I have another class, my French class here, also has a session that's concurrently active. So 2 classes with 2 active sessions. That's fine. The thing that I cannot do is have an active session, 2 active sessions in the same class running concurrently. However, the way the system is set up, as you can see here, I had one student log in and submit the assessment, but all these other students here have not logged in and have not started. As long as they have not started the assessment, it doesn't matter that I open this session right now, today, or let's say I open it at 9 a.m. Because these students didn't log in yet, their timer won't start counting down. So if they show up late, they can still log in later and take the assessment. Portion. Okay. I did see a maximum 25 character limit in the translator. Just replying to Emily's question there. Is that
Reading and writing will be a limit of 25 characters. For math, it'll be a limit of 100 characters for the translator.
okay? So there's a preset. It's clear. Kaylin is answered. Great. Great. This is Caroline was answered. Andrew was answered. If students are writing in French, is there a way to show them the question in English like we could before?
No, we used to send out an English version of the French assessment. And in consultation with the French immersion curriculum people in here in the department, we retired that practice. There is a little bit of guidance on supporting French immersion students in the assessment handbook, but the bottom line is that translation should be fairly limited. I think I could say safely. I know we have a French immersion coordinator on the call, so he may have some update on that. An assessment coordinator with French immersion experience.
So in collaboration with the French Language Services branch, it was decided that students that require translation for comprehension purposes that are not translating the mathematical terms. For example, we should not be translating things like addition, soustraction, multiplication, division. Just those are the easy ones, but just simple things. Hypotenuse, stuff like that should not be translated. But if it's a student that has not seen the word édifice, they use bâtiment pour dire the même chose. You can try to work with them in French first to try to create comprehension, and then if need be, you could say building or draw a picture to support their comprehension of the question. But we do ask that we avoid the translation of key mathematical language that is part of the outcomes.
I also see a question here about the multiplication chart, and if that's a resource in the system or something provided externally.
The charts are not provided within the system. And just note that you can check in the assessment handbook for some guidance on which adaptations are permitted on the assessment. In this case, yes, charts are permitted, tables are not. So it's always good to check in with the handbook for those kind of resources.
Okay, I'm just keeping an eye on the time. I think that most of these questions got answered, but I know that obviously if there's more questions, that we will be able to maybe take them up via the email, or if there's any other pieces there. I don't know if there's anything else we wanted to go over at this time, either Kristen or Sarah.
I did want to just mention that we are having drop-in office hours starting on May 1st from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And we would welcome all attendees here. Anybody who has questions, please feel free to drop in. This is a perfect arena to ask the kind of questions we've been getting in the webinar today. And we're always really happy to speak to and hear from teachers and staff. So we really encourage you to drop in with any questions you have, and happy to hear from you. And the links for those office hours went out in the big email yesterday. Thank you very much, Jacob. Thanks to Vretta for offering this webinar. We have recorded it. It will be available up as soon as we can up on our website. And we really appreciate all of you for dropping in today. It's been great for us to hear the questions, and it will help us update our supports going forward as well. First kick if they can, but really looking forward to it. Kristen, anything else we should close off?
No, I think that's it. If any questions arise, please let us know. And thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.